Welcome back to Liquid Lunch. Bill Cortez here filling in for John Tobacco. You know, we're in week 41 of Stop the Spread, 15 days to stop the spread, and people, I think, are at their wits' end. Small businesses, restaurant owners all across the country. We're going to go to a clip and show you a clip from California where I think there's a restaurant owner who certainly had had enough. Let's go to the clip right now.
Oh yeah, I'm blocking his ass. Yeah, because he wants to come in here and say no one can work, so he can't work either.
Where do you work?
Bread and barley, right there.
Are you, what's his brother?
I'm Carlos Roman.
The owner of Bread and Barley? Okay. So you're the brother of Bread and Barley, right? So this guy's saying that you can't work?
Yes.
You know, he works out?
Health department.
The health department?
Yeah, he decided to come today and take pictures of people outside and say that you gotta fine us and we can't work out here. So if we can't work, he can't work.
Okay, can you do me a huge favor?
I'm not moving my truck. You better get your supervisor out. Yeah, John fucking Curly out. Because I ain't using my truck.
The chief is not coming.
Someone's coming. I'm not moving.
We're talking to him already. He's not coming in. But so the traffic can get through, can we move it forward?
This is what happens when people get desperate.
He's not going to go
I'm desperate.
He's not
Who's going to pay her parking? Who's going to pay my cook's rent?
Listen, I will get a supervisor out here for you, but just so it's not hard on us, the traffic can go through.
I want it to be hard on everyone. I want everyone to see how hard this shit is. Everyone that wants to come out here and eat, they can't. Everyone that wants to drive down Citrus and visit one of the restaurants, but they can't. This guy needs to know how hard it is. That's what he needs to know. You're out here enforcing, doing your job. Did you get a paycheck on Friday? Did you get a paycheck? My people don't. I bet you got a paycheck, didn't you? You're just doing your job, right? We're all in this together. When I go to the bank, do I tell the bank the health department said it's okay? The health department said I don't have to pay you? The health department said I can't make a living?
Hey, sir.
I can't make any money?
Sir.
Is that what I tell the bank?
Sir, can you step up here for me, please?
What do I tell my employees? What do I tell my employees? He's out here enforcing it. You don't enforce a fucking rule without any consequences.
Sir.
There's consequences to everything in this world.
Can you come out over here, please?
There's consequences.
Sir.
Do you know the consequences? They can't pay their bills. Fuck me. This isn't about me. They can't pay their bills.
That is emblematic of what we're seeing all across the country here. Small businesses, restaurant owners who are at their wits' end, who can't make their payments, can't pay their employees, can't pay their rent. I think what's been clear now is that government has not cut back. Government has not reduced. Quite the opposite, it's grown. Government has become bigger and stronger and more powerful since the lockdown. Meanwhile, small businesses are hurting. Now, what's interesting is that Walmart is still open. Costco is still open. These big box stores, there's no problem. But Main Street, your small businesses, they're hurting. They're continuing to hurt. And the government has turned a blind eye over and over again. And as the gentleman said in that video, who's in it together when we say we're in it together? Small businesses versus big government. That's what's been pretty clear. What's amazing is to see guys like Dave Portnoy at Barstool. The Barstool Fund has raised over $8 million to help small businesses and restaurants all across the country. Dave Portnoy has done more than you've seen your local elected officials, than you've seen in City Hall here in New York, than you've seen in Albany, that you've seen in Washington. Over and over again, we've seen government grow in times of crises, and everyone else pays the price for that. And like this gentleman said in the video, as you saw, government didn't get any smaller. Government employees still got their checks. They still get paid every other week. But you can't say that for the small business owners that are struggling to pay their kids' college tuition or to pay their employees. What's interesting is when you compare the blue and the red states, and I think we have a graph here that's going to show the difference between, I think, California and Florida. So Gavin Newsom, who is the governor of California, who just a couple weeks ago was spotted with no mask on, enjoying his $500 a plate dinner at French Laundry in Napa Valley. That's the black line. That's California, with some of the most restrictive enforcements coming down And they started a lockdown in March and have not left that lockdown since. The orange line is Florida. That is Governor Ron DeSantis. The facts speak for themselves. Look at indoor dining. Look at the curfews in California. And yet the numbers continue to rise. So explain to me, if we want to follow science, we want to follow data. This data is pretty clear, that there's a right way and a wrong way to do this. I guess the only difference is Gavin Newsom hasn't put out a book and started to spike the football at his own 30-yard line like Andrew Cuomo has. I mean, I think Andrew Cuomo could give Nero a thing or two about fiddling as the state burns. But it's interesting to see the difference between Republican governors and Democratic governors over and over and over again. When you look at Florida, when you look at Arizona, the difference could not be clear. Congresswoman-elect Boebert, California has the worst COVID outbreak of any state in this country and also the most stringent restrictions. What does that tell us logically about these lockdowns and closures? It's true. It's true. Common sense has not led the way. And yet Democrats continue to lean on science when it makes sense to them and data where they handpick the data to enforce their new big government. Here in New York, restaurants only account for 1.5% of all COVID transmissions. So explain to me why, just the other day, we had to go and sit outside in 20-degree weather with a couple of heaters outside of my favorite restaurant in New York. What sense did that make? And now these small business owners and these restaurants are forced to create, well, 4 walls and a roof just on their sidewalk. Sounds a lot like indoor to me. But that's what we're doing. That's the problem here, is that we've allowed big government, we've allowed the de Blasios and the Cuomos and the Newsoms to get away with it. And people are simply fed up. They're not going to take any more of this. They're not going to be pushed around anymore. And yet, where are the Republicans? We've heard some Republicans come out. We've seen some lead. We've seen Governor Ducey in Arizona. We've seen Governor DeSantis in Florida. But we need a more vocal opponents to come up and give us a real alternative to what this is, to really show the way and to prove the way. And unfortunately, we haven't seen that yet. But I think people are kind of hitting their max here, where I don't think people can take much more of this, and we're seeing it over and over again all across the country. So we'll bring on some more. We have some more people on the show coming up that are going to show you the alternative. We have Bill Pepitone, who's running for mayor here in New York, who's coming up next, who's going to talk about his vision for the city, and which I think is going to be very different than what we've seen the past 8 years here with Bill de Blasio. So we have a great show coming up the rest of the time here, but I think people are just simply enough is enough. So we'll come back with some more great guests. Bill Pepitone coming back after the break. We'll see you there.